Okay, I'm gonna say some more stuff about Fernando Noveroles. What I said last time was good, but I have to add some more things. I said Fernando was one of Dad's last best friends. Fernando was a nice guy. Fernando was very a mechanical kind of guy. He knew how to work on cars and all that kind of stuff. And anytime Dad would have a problem with his car, he'd go straight to Fernando. I remember once uh, there was a crack in the block, like a little hole, and water was shooting out. And Dad went right to Fernando. And Fernando put some of that JB Bond weld, whatever, in the crack, and then put a bottle cap on top of it and wedged a piece of wood there. So then Dad came back and I looked at it and it looked okay. And I remember then he took that off and it never leaked again from there. But Fernando was always working on cars and Dad used to go over there all the time. Dad would give Fernando haircuts and other people would come. I remember as a little kid, in the driveway of Fernando Novero's house, Dad would give people haircuts. And he had his box, which I will show at some point, his toolbox that he had made, and then he'd set it up on a stool, and he had everything. And he would give people haircuts and, of course, charge them. That was Dad's little sideline. Dad didn't want to be a full-time barber anymore. But he would do that, and I remember at Fernando's house he did that a few times. So Fernando was really good with cars, with engines, knew all kinds of stuff. He would come and visit us, just be driving by and see if Dad was outside and come and just talk for a little bit. And of course, I was always helping, like I've said before. Danny was who knows where. Frank was a little kid, but I was like right there. And I would help Dad. Dad would take the spark plugs out and clean them and stuff. And Dad showed me how to clean spark plugs with little emery cloth and a little knife that Dad had. You scrape out the carbon and stuff. So I would be doing that. And then Fernando would come around and see Dad was outside, so he'd stop and they'd have a visit for a bit. And Fernando over the years had seen me helping Dad with the car a bunch. So one day he goes, este me gusta, este siempre está ayudando con los carros y arreglando y ayudando todo. And yeah, I would help Dad change the oil and all that kind of stuff, I remember there was a part, a breather in the engine that Dad would clean out and burn out and put gas on it and burn it and clean the carburetor. Dad did a whole bunch of superficial stuff on engines. He didn't know a whole bunch of taking everything apart and that kind of stuff, but Dad knew how to do his own little tune-ups and stuff, and I would help Dad all the time and change the oil. So Fernando would come around and he'd see that, and he liked me because I was always right there helping Dad. I'm sure he wished that Fernandito did that, but I don't think he did. So Fernando had made, like, he had got a forklift somehow and made a forklift tractor hybrid something, and it was in the backyard over there. I never seen him use it, but it was all put together. It was a forklift tractor something else. I don't know what that was. And there was parties. Fernando had a few parties at his house and stuff, and he had of course Fernandito Jr. and Ma Eugenia, which was a beautiful young lady. I used to like Ma Eugenia. I remember when Ma Eugenia got married that Fernando didn't like the guy that Ma Eugenia married, and he didn't go to the wedding. We went over to Fernando's house, and it was the wedding day for Ma Eugenia. And Mom went to the wedding, which was nearby, But Dad and Fernando and me, I don't know if it was Frank or whatever, stayed at Fernando's house. I think Frank went, yeah. Fernando, and he lived down, because he moved, years later he moved from that street where Pop lived. He moved way down, go down the Harbor Freeway. I forget where it was. Now, and then years later it turned into a whole black neighborhood, which it was turning into then. But he had a fireplace in the house that had swastikas on it. But the original swastikas, which were backwards, not the Nazi swastikas, but that other one, that were backwards. And we always would look at that and say, oh shit, here's a Nazi fireplace. And Fernando had a gun that he stole from the army. I don't know if he stole it, but he had this old rifle. You know, one of those bolt thing rifles. He had it like set up in the bedroom there. And he had one of those old shortwave radios. It was this big thing around that big, and it had this, had opened up and had a lid, and then all of the lines for the different shortwave frequencies. He had one of those. That was the first time I ever saw one of those. And what else? Oh, and then he sold, he had made, what do you call it? A saw, a table saw. A table saw. He had made a table saw. I think he had the table, and then he got the motor and put it all together and sold it to Don Pablo, which I will talk about Don Pablo in a little while. But what else? Fernando would come over and visit. He was one of the last friends that would visit Dad. Fernando was a great guy. He knew cars and stuff. I remember the first time I seen that he changed the tires on a car. And he didn't have the equipment, that thing, that tire change things that you, this big old thing, you put the wheel on it and you put this like clamp down and then this thing that goes around. No, he didn't have that. Somehow he took the tire off the rim. Hard, but to put it back on, he would put the tire down with the rim and roll the car over the tire side. And if it didn't all the way go on, you turn the tire and you roll another car over it. That was weird, but it worked. He knew all kinds of shortcuts around about fixing cars and stuff. And like I said, if Dad had something wrong with the car, Dad would fly to Fernando's house, and Fernando would figure it out and help Dad wonderfully. Dad would also help Fernando with his taxes and with his insurance papers and papers from work and stuff. Fernando also worked for aerospace. Because I found this out later, that there was this whole group of older Puerto Ricans that were in California that worked in all the aerospace industries. And if you went to them, you know, if you knew them and you told them, I'm looking for a job, and they'd network and find you a job in one of the aerospace industries. I think it was from the Borinquen Post of the American Legion, which made the Puerto Rican picnics and stuff. But Fernando worked for Lockheed, I think. And Pop worked for another aerospace. I don't know what he worked for. And Dad, North American, and then Lockheed and other ones. But what else about Fernando? Fernando would help come over, and if there was some big thing that Dad had to do in the house, Fernando would help. Like I said, Fernando came over to Felmina's house and helped Dad do a few things. Not too much, but he did help. What else? I don't know. Fernando was a great guy. Fernando was a wonderful guy. And I'll say it again, he had that garage wallpapered with naked lady pictures, which I loved when I was a little kid. So to this day, I have fond memories of Fernando Noveroles.